A Blue Shadow Christmas Special. A happy couple sat together on a city bench. The woman's eyes started to water as she looked from her bow to the ring newly on her finger, then to him again. He in turn had eyes only for her. They smiled, they laughed, they kissed. Their world was so different from the one in the shadows. Above, in the dark emptiness of a scaffold-covered office building, a fist balled up. Muscles were spent, and veins pumped. The knuckles of the fist impacted the shadow's jaw. The large, solid shadow recoiled from the hit, and collided with a rail, busting through it. Ugh! A cruel knee impacted abs covered in black. Knees buckled upon an impact to his shin. Another heavy impact of fist to jaw caused eyes to water. Blue found himself being roundhouse kicked through a piece of drywall. He impacted the floor hard and groaned. A different couple watched a computer screen. Blue glimpsed them through their frosty apartment window, content in their togetherness. Christmas decorations filled the background. Snow fell softly. Glittering lights made it visible in the night. Blue watched the sky through an unframed window as he tried to catch his breath. That same strong fist suddenly grasped his makeshift suit. He grappled with his attacker, twisting his arm away from him. They both stood and faced each other. One grinned, the other grimaced. He blocked and struck out in defiance, but his frenzied strikes were blocked and countered. Blood slung to the floor nearby. Blue staggered. Then with bruised hands he grasped a loose board, pulling it up into the way of the oncoming attacker. It shattered on the man. Below, several families entering restaurants nearby embraced in their meeting. Friends gathered. Dozens of happy people spoke with joy on their faces. Out of sight, the two men struggled. Blue's fist hit the other's jaw. A kick to the gut. The Blue Shadow's fury seemed to give him the upper hand, but as if the enemy absorbed his energy, it was all returned to him in spades when his energy ran low again. Bam! The floor hit his back. It cracked and popped. The thug stepped close. Give up! There wasn't time to react. The wooden floor gave way. They both fell, crash landing on the story below. Blue opened his eyes and quickly found his foe. Wood covered them both. Blue struggled to rise. The other man didn't move. Another couple sat on the couch and flipped on the radio, oblivious to the scene that had played out in the darkness around them. Finally safe, the weary shadow sat on a couch now too, but alone, grasping a blanket tightly around his shivering frame, the bloody loose bandages barely covering his wounds. That fight had been close. Too close. My suit, he thought. What am I without it? The festive music that wafted in through the crack in his apartment window made him feel all the more lonely as he sat staring out the window in silence. After a few minutes of catching his breath, he walked to the bathroom, slowly at first, and then quickened the pace when he was reassured nothing was broken. He turned on the faucet and washed his face. That was a close one, he whispered to his reflection. Am I really that weak? No response. Adam knew his reflection could not give him an answer any more than he could himself. He was alone. He felt alone. More alone than he had felt in a long, long time. He washed his face again. It was covered in more grime than he'd thought. The cold water made him think of the snow outside. He smiled. Kathy liked snow. She would always talk about how she liked to watch it fall in the light of the street lamps, and how everything seemed more peaceful and quiet on snow-covered mornings. It was quiet in his apartment, but not the peaceful quiet that winter could bring. This quiet was harsh and lonely. I can't do this alone. His admission came out hoarsely. His wounds would heal, but he was exhausted. need my team, my friends. I have to go back. A soft knock rapped on the apartment door. The sound was drowned out by the jazzy Christmas music on the radio. Kathy sat cozy on her couch, busily stringing popcorn in a garland. The knock came again, louder this time. She instinctively looked at the clock. 10 p.m. Who could be wanting anything at this hour? Her phone lay dark on the coffee table. She had no reason to expect a visitor, but could it be? No. Why would he come back now, and with no notice? Then again, he had left without a word, so maybe? She refused to let herself hope. With her guard up, she stealthily made her way to the door and cautiously looked through its tiny spy-hole. Her breath caught in her throat, for there, standing on the stoop, looking battered and bruised, was Adam, she said, opening the door. What happened to you? He looked down, almost ashamed, not knowing what to say. Maybe he should have gone to the lair first. But this was closer, and his cycle was low on gas, and admittedly, he didn't think he was ready to see his mentor. Kathy sensed his melancholy and brightened her tone. Come on in. I'll get you some water or hot chocolate or something. She stepped aside and gestured for her friend to enter the warm living room. Adam gave a weak smile. That'd be great. Sure thing. Go sit. She was happy to see him, to know he was alive, but unable to think of anything else to say, she quickly went to the kitchen to prepare the drink. Adam stood awkwardly in the entryway, not quite knowing where to sit. The room looked like an explosion of holiday cheer. Wrapping paper and empty boxes filled one of the plush chairs. Strings of popcorn covered half the couch. He opted to stand near the freshly cut, but still undecorated fir tree near the window. More than a few minutes passed before Kathy returned. She held a steaming mug of cocoa and marshmallows in one hand and a first aid kit in the other. It was clear she wasn't sure which to give him first, as she offered both mug and kit at the same time. Adam accepted both gratefully. He sat the box on the mantel and sipped the drink. They were both silent. Are you all right? Kathy asked, after sitting back on the couch with her own cup. Oh, yeah. Yeah. It was just a tough fight. Nothing major. Oh, good. She sipped her drink. He finished his. Does Night Shadow know you're here? Not yet. He paused. The bike needs gas. I figured I'd stop by and tell you I'm back. Silence. Adam looked into his empty mug. Kathy's welcome hadn't been unfriendly. Had he really expected her to throw a party for his unannounced return? He knew he didn't deserve to be celebrated. Knew his leaving had probably hurt. He opened his mouth to apologize, or at the very least give her an explanation, but he couldn't find the words. I should get going. I'm sure Night Shadow has some things to discuss. Kathy got up from her seat and followed him to the door. He handed her his mug and made his exit. It was good to see you, she said, once he'd stepped back outside. I'm glad you came back. Adam nodded, hiding his regret with the motorcycle helmet. He waved to his friend, and she waved back. Then he sped off once again into the night. A few days later, Adam entered the main room of the lair, listening to Kathy happily humming along to Baby It's Cold Outside, as she unpacked the last of several boxes of Christmas decorations. Who would have guessed Night Shadow would have all this tucked away? He'd never imagined his mentor having such a festive menagerie of holiday memorabilia. Not me, Kathy answered as she carefully removed a crystal angel from its bubble-wrapped cocoon. Weren't you the one who insisted we decorate the place? Adam prodded, whilst adjusting tinsel and holly garland above the fireplace. She turned to see him. He still looked tired, banged up, weary, but he was here, He was back, and he was himself again. Mostly. She decided not to make a big deal of it, and not to embarrass him. If he wanted to talk, he would, when he was ready. She was sure of it. At least she wanted to be.
I was indeed,
she confirmed, and set the angel on the coffee table.
But I made the suggestion all year. This is just the first time I've gotten a yes, and I figured I'd have to bring my own decorations.
Her smile widened as she watched the ornaments sparkle in the light.
I'll admit, it was sort of surprising when he brought out all these boxes,
Adam agreed. He scanned the mantel for a good spot to set a snowman figure, as Kathy finished unwrapping the crystal nativity scene.
He's a hard one to figure,
Kathy said.
One minute, he's this stern, business-oriented, no-nonsense sort of guy, and the next he's whipping out twinkle lights and singing Bing Crosby.
Adam half smiled. For the next 2 minutes, Adams observed and helped here and there, as Kathy hummed along with the Bing Crosby Christmas playlist.
You know,
Adam said after he had placed a golden star on top of the tree and stepped back to admire his work.
Yes?
Kathy said, looking from the tree to her friend.
I think the reason Night Shadow can be so distant at times is because he misses his family. We're kind of like family now. But I mean, he's my mentor, my example of the kind of hero I wanted to become. It was a long time before I really put much thought into who he was behind all that, because I was all, teach me how to fight the bad guys, from the get-go. Once I started asking personal questions and opening up about myself, we were able to better understand each other, form a bond, one deeper than master and apprentice. He's kind of like a second father to me. You understand what I'm saying, don't you?
Yes, I think I do.
It's been harder for you to get to know him, hasn't it? I've seen you try.
Kathy nodded. Adam continued.
I think it's mainly because he didn't expect you to stay. You were supposed to get Rex to talk that night, and then leave the rest to us. That's why he was so distant towards you for so long. He kept expecting you to go.
He caught his reflection in a red ball ornament. Unwilling to face his own hypocrisy, he moved it to a higher branch.
I think you remind him of his daughter, and he wanted you to live your life free of villains and crime fighting, like she never could. He didn't want to get close and then have you walk away. He never expected Nightingale.
Adam looked at his partner with a proud, brotherly smile.
What I mean is, Christmas is a time when one should be with their family. And I think Night Shadow is starting to get the idea that we're his. So, instead of staying out of reach, he might be opening up. I think all this may be partly his way of saying, welcome.
A bright smile spread across Kathy's face. She wanted to say something, but couldn't find the right words. Fortunately, hardly a moment passed before Night Shadow appeared at the doorway, carrying a tray of hot cocoa and what looked like a few Christmas cards.
The tree looks lovely,
he said as he handed Adam a mug.
You two are doing a fine job of decorating the room.
Thank you,
Kathy said.
And thank you for letting us use your decorations.
You're quite welcome, Night Shadow said with a cheery nature in his voice. He handed Kathy a mug of cocoa.
Here you are, extra marshmallows, he said. I seem to recall you enjoy them.
Kathy smiled gratefully and accepted the warm drink. She took a sip and her smile widened as she enjoyed the bold chocolate flavor. It was delicious, undoubtedly homemade.
There are a few letters here for you, Adam.
Night Shadow gestured towards the tray he had placed on the coffee table.
There's one for you as well, Kathy. I have some business to attend to, but I thought warm drinks would be a nice addition to the morning. It is for sure,
Adam said as he breathed in the sweet aroma. Night Shadow nodded contently.
Before I forget, he said, Adam, I'd like to discuss something with you. Come by the office when you have a free moment.
Adam's expression gained seriousness.
Of course.
Night Shadow's gaze lingered on Kathy for a few seconds as if he were debating whether or not to include her in the things going on. Apprehension clouded his eyes, and he turned and left without another word. For a moment all was quiet, But soon Adam and Kathy could hear their mentor singing another of his favorite Christmas tunes, probably thinking he was out of earshot. Looking at each other, they suppressed their laughter and looked at the 4 envelopes lying on the tea tray like a rainbow of green and red.
Before I forget,
Kathy said, breaking the silence,
I brought cards for you and Night Shadow. I guess I'll just leave them on the tray, too.
Adam smiled as she almost pranced over to her purse and rummaged inside. She pulled out 3 envelopes and began walking back toward the table. As she returned, she shuffled through the cards, confusion on her brow. When she examined the 3rd envelope, her expression went blank, and the other cards fell out of her now shaking hand.
What is it?
Adam asked, walking over. No response.
Kathy?
She handed him the letter as she regained composure. Adam looked at the envelope. It was silver, well made, and the front was not burdened by a return address. Upon flipping it over, the reason for her alarm became all too clear. A bright red glob of wax, stamped with an intricate calligraphy M, sealed the envelope shut. Mayhem's old insignia.
I don't know where it came from,
Kathy said once she gathered her fallen letters.
I take it you didn't know this was in your purse?
Adam said, tearing his eyes from the seal. She shook her head.
This is the first time I've seen it.
Someone must have slipped it in there.
Adam concluded.
Did anything strange happen today? Did you meet anyone new?
Kathy thought for a moment, brow wrinkled.
Let's see, I walked to the post office this morning to mail a card to my grandparents, and then I cut back to the park.
She paused.
You know what? A jogger ran right into me. Not hard or anything. He was wearing headphones. He apologized, and I thought nothing of it until now.
Could have been one of Hrax's guys,
Adam said mindfully. He handed her back the envelope. She examined the silver paper with a steely gaze. Adam could see her unconcealed disgust and worry.
So, you gonna open it or what?
He asked.
What?
She looked up at him.
Of course I'm not going to open it.
Adam was stunned.
Why not?
Kathy sighed.
No doubt it says something threatening with the sole intention of ruining my Christmas, and I'm not going to give him that satisfaction.
It might be more than that,
Adam insisted, his curiosity rising.
What if it contains some sort of information that could be useful?
And why would he do anything helpful, Adam?
Kathy said flatly.
I doubt even Christmas can make that man charitable.
You know I don't mean intentionally. Besides, he helped with the nanotech suit, didn't he?
You don't think we actually used his serum, do you?
She was stunned. Adam was quiet. He knew his memory was extremely flawed when it came to that suit.
Hrax threatened and tried to trick me into doing his dirty work for him. Yes, he gave us a clue, but Night Shadow prepared what you used himself. There's no way that envelope contains anything good.
Well, whatever it is, I think it deserves a read, don't you?
No, I don't. I think what it deserves is a spot in that orange box in the lab.
Adam thought for a second.
The hazardous waste container?
You can never be too careful.
Yeah,
Adam agreed.
but that seems a tad overly cautious.
Maybe,
Kathy conceded.
but I don't want anything to do with it at any rate.
She walked over to place the other cards on the table and dropped Hrax's envelope into the trash bin on her way. As the silver envelope fell against tattered bits of wrapping paper and old packaging peanuts, Adam understood that the conversation had come to an end. Silence flooded the room as the pair stood, neither knowing what to say. A ringing phone broke the silence. Kathy answered quickly.
Hi, Rich.
She said with less enthusiasm than she meant. She listened for a moment before assuring her friend that she was still very excited to see the show and would be ready to go in an hour. She hung up the phone and looked back to Adam.
I have to get home so Richie can pick me up for the show. Are you sure you won't join us? It would be a fun evening.
Adam shook his head.
Night Shadow wants to talk to me about something. And plus...
He gave a small chuckle.
Figure skating isn't really my cup of tea.
The Nutcracker is a classic,
Kathy countered jovially.
but I'm not too sure how it will be on ice either. Nonetheless, it should be fun, and if you discover you're bored in a few hours and want to see an ice skating rat, you know where to find us.
Adam eyed the massive computer wall and all the tracking data for crime there, and looked back at her with a "you kidding" expression.
Not likely, but thanks.
They laughed for a moment, and then said their goodbyes. Adam waited until Kathy left the room before walking to the trash can and gingerly picking up the silver envelope. Even if she refused to open Rax's letter now, she might be curious later. He was, at any rate, and the card had potential to be useful in some way that was at present unforeseen. He tucked the letter into his pocket and made his way to the Night Shadow's office. He was curious to hear what his mentor had to tell him, as well as to hear his thoughts on the mystery envelope.
Ah, Adam, good.
Night Shadow looked up from his papers as his protege entered the office.
Did Kathy go home so soon? Yeah, she had to get ready to go to a show with a friend.
A nostalgic twinkle lit the older man's eye.
Ah, yes. The Nutcracker. One of my favorite ballets. You didn't want to go? I thought I overheard her inviting you yesterday. Ballets really aren't my thing,
Adam replied.
but she's excited. She deserves a little fun. She does indeed,
Night Shadow agreed.
and so do you, Adam. You can't make up for lost time by hiding in the gym. Your physical health is important, but exercise can only do so much to ease the mind.
Adam stood in the doorway for a moment, not knowing how to respond.
You wanted to talk to me?
Yes. He beckoned. Come in. He handed Adam a photograph.
What can you tell me about that?
Adam looked at the photograph, trying to take in as much information as possible.
It looks like a statue.
He said after a moment.
A very detailed statue, carved out of ice, depicting an old man.
He focused on the other aspects of the picture. The scenery, the depth of the shot, the way the image blurred as if the photographer had been a little shaky.
This was taken near the docks off Todridge Park. The old library is in the background. But why would somebody put all that work into an ice sculpture and leave it in a place where no one goes?
Why, indeed. Night Shadow nodded, and then spread out an old map of the city onto the table in front of them. See this circle? Adam looked at the map and noticed the hand-drawn circle that outlined a small group of buildings.
Yeah, what about it?
The library is here, Night Shadow said, pointing to an area within the edge of the circle. The statue is here, right in front of it. He gestured a few centimeters to the left.
I have sources that confirm seeing similar ice sculptures nearby. Their positions would mean little or nothing from the street, or to passerby. But if you have an aerial view...
He laid down an enlarged version of the map encompassed by the circle.
You see that the statues are all ringing around the library. You think there might be a connection?
Adam said, eyeing the map with interest.
I absolutely do. That library was set for demolition years ago, after the city upgraded Gatsby Square and moved the contents into a more updated facility. The building was saved as a historical landmark by a certain politician we know. Rax? The one and only.
Night Shadow locked eyes with Adam.
A part of me has often wondered why he would save that building, and we may be on the brink of learning just that.
Adam stared at the photo, his eyes sparkling with interest.
So, when are we going to check it out? I planned on doing a little reconnaissance work tomorrow.
His mentor answered.
I'll let you know what I find, and what sort of action I feel should be taken. If Rax is involved, this could prove very serious. I don't want you investigating on your own, Adam. At least not until we know more. Do you understand?
Yes, sir, Adam responded in a solemn tone.
Is there anything you'd like for me to do in the meantime? Just keep your ears open, like always. Right,
Adam said.
Is that all you needed?
Yes. I'll give you more information as I get it. Adam nodded. His mentor seemed to be engrossed in thought, so he turned to leave. He was almost out the door when he remembered the envelope in his pocket.
Oh,
He said,
I have something I think you should see. It doesn't involve the case, I think. But, well, here.
He removed the letter from his pocket and handed it to Night Shadow.
It's mayhem, isn't it?
Night Shadow was silent for some time, as he was trying to come up with the right words. He gazed intently at the red wax seal that stood starkly against the silver paper of the envelope.
This was sent to you?
He asked finally. Adam shook his head.
Kathy found it in her purse. That fell out when she was getting the Christmas cards she'd brought for you and me. She's not certain how it got there, but she did remember bumping into someone as she walked through the park.
So it didn't come in the mail? Night Shadow inquired hurriedly.
No,
Adam assured him.
Oh, thank heavens.
The older man replied.
I can't express how dangerous it would be if he knew where she lived.
Both were quiet for a moment as that unpleasant thought hung briefly in the air.
I see she didn't open it,
Night Shadow observed.
Why? She didn't want to,
Adam answered.
Said it couldn't contain anything good, so why bother? She tossed it in the trash, but I thought you should see it.
You are quite right, Adam. And though it is likely some ruse to throw her off our game, we can never be too careful, or I fear dismissive with anything that involves that man. Adam nodded his agreement.
I'll run some tests on this,
Night Shadow said, referring to the mystery letter,
just to see if it is indeed safe to open should she choose to do so.
Adam was shocked.
You mean you're not going to open it?
If it comes to it, I may insist that it be read, but I think it's best if she makes that decision on her own. Night Shadow got up from his chair. I have a lot of work ahead of me tonight, and this should be dealt with sooner than later. I'm afraid I'll have to end our conversation here for the night. Adam nodded, relieved that he'd disclosed the letter.
I understand. Good night.
Good night, Adam. Night Shadow said kindly. I will keep you informed of whatever I find.
Thank you,
Adam replied, and left the office, his mind full of questions.